In the serene garden of Jetavana, Buddha sat beneath the ancient Bodhi tree, radiating calm and gentle wisdom. The disciples gathered, their faces filled with expectation and reverence, awaiting words to guide their hearts and troubled minds. Among them sat Ananda, an artist struggling with creative emptiness. His spirit weighed down by frustration and self-doubt. Ananda approached Buddha, his voice trembling, and said, "Master, I feel lost. Inspiration eludes me, and my work lies unfinished." Buddha smiled, his gaze tender and compassionate, and gestured for Ananda to bring forth the empty clay bowl he carried. The Buddha gazed into the distance before speaking. To understand suffering, we must first look deeply within ourselves. Ananda hesitated, gazing at the vessel, and replied softly, "I see emptiness, Master, a hollow that longs to be filled." Buddha nodded, the corners of his lips lifting gently, and said, "Indeed, emptiness resides here, but it is not without value." He lifted the bowl higher, allowing sunlight to catch its surface, illuminating its curves and the space within. "An empty bowl carries infinite possibilities," Buddha continued, his voice deliberate and melodic. "It waits patiently to be transformed, to find purpose." Ananda listened, his eyes fixed on the bowl, as Buddha's words began to penetrate the layers of his doubt. "Creativity, much like this bowl, thrives in emptiness," Buddha said. "Only when the mind is clear can inspiration find a home." Buddha placed the bowl gently on the ground, its hollow center facing upward, as if inviting the universe to fill it. A murmur rippled through the group, as each disciple reflected on their own inner barriers. "If your mind is like a cup full of stones," Buddha continued, "can it then hold the water of wisdom?" The disciples shook their heads in unison, their attention sharpened like a bowstring taut with purpose. Buddha turned to the gathering, his presence serene, and said, "Each of you carries an empty bowl in your soul." The disciples looked to one another, their expressions thoughtful, considering the weight and purpose of Buddha's symbolic words. "That bowl," Buddha explained, "is your potential, waiting for your hands to shape it, your spirit to fill it." Ananda knelt beside Buddha, his eyes alight with newfound understanding, and asked, "Master, how shall I fill my bowl?" Buddha reached for a single lotus flower blooming nearby, its petals unfolding with delicate beauty and quiet grace. He placed the flower into the bowl, its gentle weight barely disturbing the emptiness it adorned. "Inspiration, Ananda, comes as the lotus comes," Buddha said, "unbidden and in its time. When the conditions are right." Ananda touched the bowl, his fingers tracing its surface, as if the answers to his questions lived in its form. "Your work," Buddha said, "is to prepare the bowl, to keep it clean and open, welcoming what may come." Buddha lifted the bowl once more and poured water into it, the liquid swirling gracefully, filling its hollow space. "Water flows when the path is clear," Buddha said. "So too does creativity flow when you accept your emptiness with peace." The disciples watched, their hearts absorbing the wisdom like water filling the bowl. Gentle and transformative, Ananda felt tears welling in his eyes, not of sadness, but of relief and connection to the Master's teachings. "Master," Ananda said softly, "I understand now. My emptiness is not my failure, but the beginning of something greater." Buddha smiled, his eyes filled with kindness, and replied, "Indeed, Ananda, from emptiness, all creation arises, like the lotus from the muddy waters." The disciples rose, their spirits lighter, inspired to embrace the lessons of the bowl and the wisdom it carried. Ananda returned to his work, the bowl cradled in his hands, renewed with hope and purpose to create. As the sun set over Jetavana, its light fading into the horizon, the garden seemed to whisper with quiet peace. Buddha sat, his form silhouetted against the evening sky, his teachings lingering like echoes in the disciples' hearts. The garden grew still, its emptiness humming with possibility. As the world awaited the creations born from quiet minds, each disciple carried the memory of the bowl, their minds turning over its shape, its lesson, its invitation. They understood now that emptiness was not an obstacle, but the birthplace of inspiration, the seed of all creation. Through the stillness, through acceptance, they found the strength to transform their voids into vessels for beauty and truth. And Buddha, ever patient and wise, remained as the light within their hearts, guiding their paths forward. Another day, in the lively bustle of a village near Jetavana, Buddha walked among the people, his steps deliberate and calm. Villagers greeted him with respect, their hands folded in reverence, seeking solace in his presence and wisdom in his words. As Buddha moved through the market, his gaze rested upon a weaver, Kumara, who sat by her loom in frustration. Her hands fumbled with tangled threads, her brow furrowed with anxiety, her spirit burdened by a pattern she could not complete. "Master," Kumara said as she saw Buddha approach, her voice heavy with despair, "my threads refuse to align. My work falters." Buddha sat beside her, his face serene, and examined the loom. Its colorful threads knotted and chaotic in places. "Kumara," Buddha said softly, "why do you let the threads trouble your heart? They are but a reflection of your mind." Kumara looked at him, her eyes filled with confusion, and asked, "Master, how can my mind be the cause of these tangles?" Buddha reached for a strand of thread, holding it up for Kumara to see. "Its twists tight and stubborn. The threads mirror your thoughts," Buddha explained. "When the mind is restless, it creates knots in what you seek to create." He began to untangle the thread with deliberate care, each movement measured, his hands steady and unhurried. "Master," Kumara asked, watching his movements, "what should I do when the threads of my mind become tangled in this way?" Buddha smiled and said, "First, you must pause. Do not pull harder, for force only tightens the knots." He gently unraveled the strand, his fingers patient, his touch light, until the thread lay smooth and free. Next, Buddha continued, "Approach each knot with care, one at a time, without haste or frustration clouding your vision." The disciples who accompanied Buddha observed his actions closely, their eyes widening with the simplicity yet depth of his lesson. "Master," one disciple asked, "how can we apply this wisdom to our own lives and the challenges we face within?" Buddha placed the untangled thread on the loom and said, "The mind, like this loom, weaves the tapestry of your existence. When your thoughts are calm and purposeful," Buddha explained, "the tapestry flows with beauty and harmony, a reflection of your inner state." Kumara hesitated and said, "But what if the pattern remains unclear?" "Master, what if inspiration refuses to come?" Buddha took another thread, weaving it gently through the loom, creating a small, simple pattern of intersecting lines. "Begin with small steps, Kumara," Buddha advised. "Allow the pattern to reveal itself as you work, moment by moment. What you mend with insight," Buddha continued, "is stronger than what was born without trial, for it carries the wisdom of growth." His disciples exchanged glances, the simplicity of the lesson resonating deeply, each finding reflections in their own lives and challenges. Without it, the loom cannot fulfill its purpose. The villagers gathered quietly, drawn to the scene, as Kumara's loom transformed into a symbol of resilience and understanding. One elder approached and asked, "Master, what should we do when the loom breaks or the threads run short?" Buddha turned to the elder and replied, "When the loom falters, mend it. When the threads are few, weave with care and intention." His words resonated deeply among the crowd, their own struggles reflected in the simplicity of the weaving and the threads. Buddha stood, his presence a beacon of calm, and said, "Remember, the tapestry of life is woven not in haste but in mindfulness." Kumara bowed low, her spirit renewed, and said, "Thank you, Master. I will weave with patience, embracing each thread as it comes." As Buddha and his disciples continued their journey, the market seemed lighter, the air filled with a quiet understanding. The villagers returned to their tasks, their hearts inspired, their minds reflecting the teachings they had witnessed. Kumara sat at her loom, her hands steady, her thoughts quiet, her fingers moving with the rhythm of newfound clarity. The sun set over the village, casting a warm golden light, as the day carried the echoes of Buddha's wisdom. As the man knelt to repair his wheel, his actions infused with new understanding, the disciples silently marveled at his determination. Buddha walked onward, his footsteps light yet grounding, his presence a reminder of the infinite possibilities within impermanence. In the stillness of the evening, the village wove its own tapestry, each soul a thread in the fabric of life. Buddha, ever the gentle teacher, walked on, his steps light yet profound, his wisdom a gift to all he encountered. Another day, Buddha gathered his disciples at a tranquil pond, its surface reflecting the clear sky and surrounding trees. The air was filled with the soft hum of nature, birds singing, and the gentle rustle of leaves in the breeze. Buddha stood by the water's edge, his gaze calm and focused, his presence grounding all who had come to listen. He picked up a small pebble from the ground and held it between his fingers, observing its smooth surface. "Today, we will speak of the restless mind," Buddha said, his voice resonant and filled with quiet authority. The disciples leaned in, eager for the teaching, their own thoughts buzzing like bees in a restless hive. Buddha threw the pebble into the pond, and ripples spread outward, disturbing the stillness of the water. "Observe the ripples," Buddha instructed, pointing to the expanding circles. "This is the mind when it becomes disturbed by doubt or desire." The disciples watched the ripples carefully, noting their movement, their expansion, and their eventual fading into the pond's stillness. Buddha bent down and picked up another pebble, holding it up for the disciples to see its unassuming simplicity. "When the mind reacts," Buddha said, "it is like this pebble striking the water, scattering clarity with fleeting impulses." He cast the second pebble into the pond, and once again the water quivered, its surface no longer reflecting perfectly. A disciple named Suman asked, "Master, how can we calm the ripples? How can we restore the mind's stillness?" Buddha smiled gently and replied, "Patience, Suman. The ripples fade not by force, but through the passage of time." He sat down beside the pond, the hem of his robe brushing the soft earth, inviting the disciples to join him. "Each thought is a pebble," Buddha continued. "You must choose which pebbles to cast and which to let remain." The disciples nodded, their faces contemplative, as Buddha's metaphor began to take root in the fertile ground of their minds. Another disciple, Priya, asked, "Master, what if the pebbles are thrown by others? How do we guard against such disturbances?" Buddha's eyes softened, and he said, "Priya, the pond cannot stop the pebbles, but it can absorb them without clinging." He gestured to the pond, now calm once more, its surface reflecting the world as if the ripples had never existed. "Do you see?" Buddha said, "The pond accepts the pebble's impact but does not hold onto it. It lets go." Suman looked down at the water, her reflection wavering slightly, and said, "Master, how do we learn to let go?" Buddha lifted his hand and pointed to his own chest, then to the disciples, his gesture profound in its simplicity. "Letting go begins here," Buddha said, "in the heart, where attachment dwells. Release the need to control the water's flow." The disciples sat in silence, each considering the weight of their own pebbles, the ripples they caused within their minds. Buddha turned his attention back to the pond. Its surface now a perfect mirror, unmarred by the stones thrown earlier. When the mind is still, Buddha said, it reflects truth and clarity, just as this pond reflects the sky above. Priya asked, Master, what if we cannot achieve stillness? What if the ripples continue despite our efforts to quiet them? Buddha nodded, acknowledging her question, and said, the goal is not perfection, Priya, but awareness. Watch the ripples without judgment. He scooped up a handful of water, letting it drip through his fingers, each drop returning to its source without resistance. Even in motion, the water finds its way, Buddha explained. Do not fight the ripples. Observe them with compassion. The disciples watched the water droplets, their descent graceful and inevitable, dissolving into the pond with no sign of separation. Suman bowed her head and said, Master, I understand now. Stillness is not the absence of motion but the acceptance of it. Buddha smiled, his face a beacon of quiet joy, and said, Yes, Suman, stillness lives within the heart that embraces change. The sun began to dip low in the sky, casting golden light over the pond, its surface shimmering with quiet beauty. The disciples meditated by the water, their breaths slow and steady, their minds echoing Buddha's words like ripples in stillness. Buddha stood and looked at them, his presence a reminder of the peace that could be found within themselves. Carry this pond within you, Buddha said. Let it remind you of the stillness that exists beyond the ripples of thought. The disciples rose, their hearts lighter, their spirits calmed, ready to face the challenges of their restless minds with grace. As they left the pond, its surface returned to perfect calm, holding the memory of Buddha's teaching in its quiet depths. Each step they took carried a sense of purpose, a willingness to face life's pebbles with patience and understanding. The day faded into evening, the world cloaked in shadow, but the light of Buddha's wisdom burned brightly in their hearts. Buddha continued his journey, his steps a ripple in the fabric of time, his teachings an eternal reflection in the pond. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.